And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh damn it.
Welcome to episode 231 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome back. It has been a while.
It has. It has been since the first issue of Nailbiter.
I would say so 4 months, but did that start before
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it started... No, I mean, it was like April.
Okay. What even is time?
I don't even know anymore.
I don't think anybody does. I am going to ask, though, how was that first episode of Season 6 of Schitt's Creek? Because that dropped on Netflix today.
It was excellent. I watched the first 3 episodes. I think I paused in 4.
Gotcha. I have only seen the first one and, like, the first 3 minutes of the second. Because then I realized
yes.
I needed to do show notes and wanted to pay attention, so I paused to come back.
Understandable. I did a similar thing because I wanted to hang some stuff up.
Yeah. I am mostly just excited to have it back, even if it's the end of it.
I know, but I hear it's the best finale, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
Good. I am excited. Okay, comics.
Oh yeah, that is a thing, isn't it?
Yep. The Department of Truth, #1. So this is a new Tynan book.
Mm-hmm.
I did not really know exactly what to expect going into this beyond the very broad premise that what if conspiracy theories were all real? And I really dug it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I just knew it was #1, and I tend to like Image Comics, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And then both you and Tim were like, this is amazing, and I went, oh, yeah, okay. I'm glad I grabbed a copy of it. It had a lot of variants, if I remember correctly.
It did have a few, and I feel like it's going to end up with even more because I think it's already gone back for a second and maybe third printing.
Nice. Yeah, totally worth it. The art in this is just, it's amazing because it's very,
It's like watching an old videotape.
Yeah, it's not in focus at all, except for the woman in red. And I kind of love that.
Yeah, I did grab the Jenny Frisson variant that is the woman in red.
I didn't even see.
Yeah, it's a red background. It's like her head and shoulders, and she's raising a hand to like lower her glasses so you see the two eyes or what have you.
Yeah, no, this was great. I love I don't love conspiracy theories. I used to, but they're kind of taking over the world right now.
Yeah, I've never been a conspiracy theory person. They kind of have always irritated me. But what I like about this is that's kind of about how they spread and why they're... It's about the psychology and the worldview of so many people buying into them.
Yeah, I did really like how they describe and explain conspiracy theories in this and why they end up being such a thing that so many people do buy into.
Yeah. It's very much like a magic, right? Like, the more... In the rules of the book, the more people believe the thing, the more broadly that thing comes to be true. So if suddenly everyone believes the Earth will be flat, the Earth will be flat, and all of this time everyone will have been lying to you, and
right.
Plane maps will no longer, flight paths will no longer work, and all of this stuff will be retroactively changed.
Yeah, I mean, that is essentially what a tulpa is, and I had a lot of fun walking around being like, it's not a tulpa, which is a supernatural reference to a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh, I see what you did there. It's a tuma.
Yep.
Yeah, I got there eventually.
Yeah, it takes a minute. Like, you have to have seen that episode of Supernatural where they talk about tulpas and then understand that Dean makes a reference, and anything Dean does is perfect, so it's great.
I have never seen any Supernatural, so I will take your word for it.
That is on you.
I know. I do want to talk about the coloring in this. So Martin Simmons is the artist, and he colors himself. And I think he does a really great job of switching up the coloring and using that. Like you said, a lot of the art feels out of focus or kind of sketchy and shadowy and undefined even sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he does a great job of using color not only to draw focus and sort of set a sense of time and place, but to really to make the moments that are more ethereal, where for instance the main character in this is taken to Antarctica to be shown the edge of the world because this small the earth is flat biome has popped up there because enough people believe it. And he uses, I think, the color to define those moments of change and fluctuation so well in a book that already feels like it's shifting and moving and flowing on the page.
Yeah.
That I think by having that use of color, it makes the other kind of sketchy, undefined stuff feel more concrete and grounded.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the art in this is just incredibly well done. Like, from opening the page and being like, all right, I have no idea what's going to happen here, but I am in it.
Yeah. I was not prepared for the last page of this.
Yeah, I know you boys both loved the last page. I was just kind of like, huh, okay.
I mean, I was a little more okay, just I did not expect it. I knew when I read it that Tim would eat it up.
That's true, for good reason.
Yeah.
It is a great twist.
I think it's a cool twist. Obviously, we don't really get a whole lot of what that means for the bigger context of this thing.
And I'm assuming we won't for a while.
No, he even says near the end of the issue, this character who I'm not going to name, he even says, though, no, you know that asking questions will just raise more questions. Don't worry about that right now. At least be on the clock before you start asking questions.
I did appreciate that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of that's kind of to the reader, we get it. We know you've got a lot of questions, but come on, you think we're just going to answer everything right away? Ever?
Exactly.
I feel justified in having done something I never do. When I bought the physical copy of Razor Blades, I also ordered a Department of Truth lapel pin, and I'm glad I liked this much, so I don't feel silly for having already ordered that piece of merch.
Are they still selling the pin?
I think so.
I'm gonna have to go look at that now.
Yeah, it's the government emblem logo, the round nice. Seal with the Department of Truth, United States of America, and the I'm going to call it Bill Cipher in the middle.
Always good.
The all-seeing eye. Anything else? You got anything else?
Not on this one.
All right, let's move on to Nailbiter Returns.
Yeah, don't want to say too much about this. But what is going on here?
So, I think we get two answers in this book that really raise more questions. Well, one of which definitely raises more questions. I think the end of this arc is really just setting up what the book is actually about, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We finally see, oh shoot, what's her name? The sheriff.
See, that was the thing. I was like, I can't remember anybody's name in this.
She has a bird name, doesn't she? Maybe? I don't know. It's literally sitting right here. I could just look, couldn't I?
I don't know if they use her name.
I know, they call her Mom all the time.
You say that like she's not a mom.
Well, no, I know. It's her daughter calling her Mom. Anyway, she finally shows up. If you've read the first 6 arcs of this, you know who we're talking about. The sheriff. And if you haven't read the first 6 arcs, start there.
Yeah, probably a good idea to start there.
This is even being collected in trade as Volume 7. So,
Oh, is it really? That's good.
yeah. Like, it's definitely a continuation. And that brings us to the first kind of answer we get. The first volume ends on what I feel like is kind of an infamous cliffhanger. Like, I know that there was a lot of, you really ended it like that, how dare you, floating around the internet. And we
Are you talking about
finally...
the first or the last volume?
The last volume of the first... Well, okay. When I say volume, I mean issues 1 through 30 of Nailbiter. Volume 6 ends with...
Yes, the or else. Or is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Comics needs to come up with another word for... Let's say first run of Nailbiter. The first run of Nailbiter ends with.
The first arc?
Well, no, because then that's like volume 1 to me. Yeah. Anyway, this is not... we don't have to solve this problem. The first run ends with a cliffhanger involving the sheriff and presumably Warren, the Nailbiter. And we finally see that scene picked up here. Yes. And we see what happened. Crane, that's her name, Crane.
Thank you. I was like, it's not anywhere. I've seen everybody else's name but hers.
I knew it was some kind of bird, because Crane and Finch. And also Warren calls her Little Bird. Because it always makes me think of Green Arrow and Black Canary.
Also a good bird.
We finally see what happened to her and how she got to what's going on now from there. And then we learn what's going on, at least in name, which is the Butcher Games.
Yes. Which apparently Crane and Warren created.
That was the shocking part to me. Like, I was not surprised to know Warren knew something about this and what was going on. Like, that's Warren's MO.
Yeah, but Crane and Warren dated. I mean, they have a child, so, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know if I just had forgotten, or if I guess I just forgotten, like, how sort of invested in the culture of serial killers she was when she was younger.
Fair. I mean, it's kind of hard not to be in this town.
Right. Just she and Alice are the best, though. And there is a scene where, like, the guys rush in to rescue them.
Oh my god. I looked at this scene for a while because it took me a minute to realize who was wearing the SWAT outfit. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
I love this book. I love this book so much. I always forget how much. I know I said that when we did the episode about it, but...
No, yeah. I'm in the same boat where it's like, I definitely want to sit down and reread the first 6 volumes again. I probably won't because, you know, time and other things. But I'm really glad it's back.
Yeah.
And that it's not suffered.
And we haven't talked a whole lot about this first arc because Brian hasn't been reading it. So when we get to the Spooktacular, we'll talk more about just this arc as a whole.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because there is a new issue next month.
Yes.
According to the last, and I'm assuming those have actually been updated. But all the other trades were 5 issues, so I'm assuming this is, I mean, the way that it ends, it is very clearly the end of an arc.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think like they've even, well, I know they've put out the solicitation for Volume 7. I think it is 1 through 5.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But like you said, this definitely feels like the end of an arc, so I'm cool with our talking about it for the Spooktacular.
Yeah. Did Brian read the first 6?
Brian has read, I think, the first 3 volumes. I don't know, because we did the episode, and he read the first half for it. And I know he, like, wanted to immediately sit down and finish it. I don't know if, as crazy as his work projects have been, if he actually got the chance to.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So maybe he'll do it at the beach. Brian's at the beach right now, by the way. That's why Brian's not here.
That's why I'm here.
Yes. The Immortal Hulk, the Threshing Place one shot. You told me you had read this, and I was a little worried as, like, convoluted in a good way, but, like, as complex as the Immortal Hulk has gotten in its main book, and as much as these one-shots have kind of relied on a lot of knowledge of what's going on. But this one actually, I think, stands alone pretty well.
I think it really does, because I am always behind on the Immortal Hulk. As much as I love it, I just don't keep up with a lot of Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah.
That being said, I was really glad to have an excuse to grab a copy. That's not true. I didn't grab a copy. I was like,
You read my copy.
I read your copy, yes. And yeah, at first it has some serious flashbacks to like an earlier book. I don't know if it's book 1. I really don't think it is, but it is definitely an earlier book. And I was like, did I pick up the wrong thing? Hang on a second. Shit. Like, am I reading the wrong thing? And it's like 3 panels and it's like, but this is very different.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think you're right that it's not number 1, but I do think it is literally issue 2.
Yeah, I definitely think it was in like the first trade. And no offense to the writer, the story was a little predictable. But that being said, it still went away after that. I was like, okay, that I predicted. And it still went past that. And I liked that. And I like just kind of the message of this. I don't know how spoilery we want to get.
I mean, I'm cool with whatever spoilers on just about any of the stuff we're talking about today,
Cool.
truth be told.
So yeah, he's going to the small town. A little girl has gone missing, some people have been killed, and it is very clear that it is something with gamma rays. And I immediately went, cool, the girl turns into a Hulk. And then that's not quite what happens, but it's close.
Yeah, well, I think, like, a little bigger picture, and maybe this is the one thing that just reading this by itself hurts the book a little bit. I do agree with you that, like, a lot of the beats are the beats you expect. It's good because Jeff Lemire makes them interesting, but they're not surprising. But I think in the context of what's going on, like, seeing that I almost called it the green. This isn't Swamp Thing. But the place below, the green door, is still opening and affecting random people who had nothing to do with the creation of the Hulk. Knowing what we know about the causality behind that lore, behind who's pulling the strings and what some of it means, I think that makes it a little more ominous because it feels like part of this pattern that the person behind it could show up anywhere, take over anyone, and could leave these sort of ticking time bombs to control in the future.
Sure. That being said, I really like that he crashes into the government room just to be like, fuck you guys. And he pauses when the woman's like, I have a family. And then there's like this single arc of a water bowl, like a dog water bowl, and this I almost called it a safety pin. It's a hair clip with a flower on it that has been very clearly established belongs to this little girl. And I was like, that is such an easy yet creepy way of just being like, they didn't give a shit about this kid.
Yeah, that moment stood out to me, and there's also a panel where I don't know if this was in Lemire's script or just the way Mike Del Mundo chose to lay it out, where the Hulk has picked up the sheriff who has locked Bruce in a cell.
Yes.
And he's been eating popcorn, and he's still holding the popcorn while the Hulk is holding him, and he tells the Hulk an obvious lie, won't tell the Hulk the truth, and the Hulk just kind of pops him, and his head pops off, but the popcorn bucket with the pop exclamation point on it blocks it, and it's this great composition bit.
Yes, I really, really liked that. It's a way of getting that, like, creepy gore factor in without actually doing it.
Yeah.
And then, at the very end, he sits down and talks with the dad, and is like, they're not gonna stop coming after her, but the difference is that she has you. And I really liked that.
Yeah. A lot of the latest issues have been about Bruce's relationship to his dad, which is not good.
Sense.
So, like,
Shocker.
that moment I think really ties into what they've been doing in this last arc or so.
Very cool.
Shang Chi #1. I do not know a ton about Shang Chi.
Okay.
I picked this up for 2 reasons. One, there's a Shang Chi movie coming out, so like I'd kind of like to be a little more in the know. And 2, Gene Yang, who has done a lot of work over at DC, Superman of China, Justice League of China, The Terrifics, Superman Smashes the Klan. He's writing it, and it's really, really good. I do not know how deep the lore that it's drawing on goes, but it makes everything super clear up front, without feeling like it's just holding your hand the whole time. The setup here is basically Shang Chi was part of a family of martial artists, essentially. Each I don't know if each of the other leaders of the 5 groups that his father commanded were all related, or if just he and one other are. That is a question mark to me after this issue. But his father was the leader of this group of 5 different weapon-based fighting armies, whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
And in Marvel history, at some point, Shang-Chi is directly, indirectly responsible for his father's death. Someone else has ascended to running the group, and he's like exiled, living in the US, whatever. And a character shows up, deposes the guy who's running the organization, and Shang-Chi is chosen as the replacement, even though he's in exile. This does not work for, she's called Sister Hammer. This does not work for Sister Hammer, so she decides to put out a hit on Shang-Chi. And 2 of the other group leaders who run the, I think one is Sword and the other is Katana, maybe? Or no. I don't know. One was Sword, I forget what the other was. They basically show up and stop the assassination and like, no, we need to put you back in charge because this is going to go badly if Sister Hammer keeps running the show. And that's basically where this ends. So it's, I think, using the character's history really well. It's a 5-issue miniseries, so it's set up to be a pretty contained story that I think will be a good thing to build off of if this is successful, if they want to do more, or if they want to put out an ongoing closer to when the movie comes out.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Was I don't remember when the movie. I think it was still 2021. I don't think it was supposed to be a 2020 movie, so it's not like this would have lined up with the movie.
Yeah, I think at this point probably this even falls to 2022 at least, if I had to guess.
No. I'm talking about pre-COVID, like
no,
the
I
original
know.
movie.
But like I think it came out in the last week maybe that Marvel is planning to shift everything back a year.
No, that I knew. I guess while you were explaining it, my original question was, I wonder if this comic was supposed to line up with the movie.
Oh,
I don't my
think so.
thought process went, I think it was actually supposed to be 2021. So maybe it was setting the stage to, like you and other comic readers, kind of give them this lore and this background before we go into it.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because we
Who's
just
writing it?
Jean Lewin Yang.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other times Shang-Chi has shown up in the last decade. I know he was a supporting character in Domino for at least a couple of issues. And I think he showed up a little bit in Hickman's Avengers run, maybe in like Avengers World. But he really hasn't been super present, at least not in the tentpole stuff.
Okay.
So I definitely feel like you're right that this is like Marvel saying, here, have some Shang-Chi. We're going to do a mini-series and see how sales numbers are and how people feel about this.
Right.
I do really like that they got Gene Yang to write it.
Yeah,
one, because he's a
agree.
great writer, but 2, because I think it helps to have voices who understand where an Asian character is, a Chinese character is coming from, because he is Chinese.
No, I agree. I was bracing myself for who you were going to say, and I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that. So,
yeah.
I assume the rest of the team is probably white, and that is also still a problem. But hey, you know what? We are starting to make changes. Let's just continue them. That is my quick soapbox.
Actually, I'm pretty sure the artist, I do not know, but I believe the artist is also of Asian descent.
Okay,
DK
good.
Ruan.
Good job, Marvel. You started making changes.
Yeah. In fact, even a lot of the variants, I think they've picked Asian or Asian American artists to draw.
Good.
Like the one I got was Kim Jacinto.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. Every now and then they get it right.
Yeah, I'll probably. Uh, this will probably eventually end up on Comixology, and I'll give it a shot then.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big superhero person.
No, I
I know
know.
I say that every time, but I am curious, and I will probably see the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I will say, this doesn't have, like, big superhero vibes. This definitely feels like it's coming more from a, like, street-level martial arts place
Okay.
than from a capes and what. Like, there's no Iron Man in this, there's no Cap, there's no, like, superhero.
Sure.
In fact, as far as I know, none of these, like, warrior clans are gifted with magical powers like, say, Iron Fist.
Okay.
I think they're just really good with the weapons of their groups.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I still get it. It's still in a superhero world, but I think it's less that.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. Strange Academy #3.
So I haven't read Strange Academy 1 and 2, but I decided to read this because it does have a YA feel from what I can tell, and
Yeah.
that is definitely something that I'm always down for, helping to promote these comics that are geared towards a little bit younger of a reader. I enjoyed it, and I definitely will pick up the first arc once it's done. And I mean, I love New Orleans, so that was also good.
Yeah, this is a very fun book. I really dig this book.
Yeah, I can see that. Like the whole opening of just like trying to find the inner eye and kind of going through each student as they like try to do this, and I just kept laughing.
Yeah, it's Scotty Young writing, and he's really good at sort of hitting that kind of all ages sweet spot without it feeling just written at kids.
Yeah.
And like there are little nods, like in the scene you're mentioning, there are little nods to like the art in I think it was Donnie Cates was writing, but it was Chris Bacalo on art for Mark Waid and Chris Bacalo. Like the coloring in that section was a callback to a more recent run that was really good. Like I feel like it's full of a lot of little nods like that are cool, but that you don't have to be aware of to actually enjoy the book.
Yeah.
Also, there's an opening in my heart for a magical school full of teens learning to do magic. I'm looking for a replacement for one of those, so this works.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely will be checking out more of this. It also had just like a really good kind of Halloween vibe for October.
Yeah, that's, I think, super fair.
The comics we got were on September 30th. Okay, I was just going, it's October as we talk. And Nailbiter definitely said the next issue comes out in October. And I had a moment of just like, what?
Yeah, I think it always comes out the last week of the month, so it's probably like right before or on Halloween. I don't know what day of the week it falls on this year.
I think it's the 28th. But yeah, no, like this, sorry, that was just spitting out of me saying that this has like a really good kind of Halloween-y feel without being like, and we're going to a costume party. It's tapping into like the side of New Orleans, the like ghost side of New Orleans.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like, my favorite thing about New Orleans is that like there are definitely for sale signs that mention if it's haunted or not. So I am all for that.
Well, I think that's one of the things I really like about this book and this issue in particular is the fact that these are all new characters means that, like, seeing them go into the French Quarter to just kill time and hang out is a really good way to sort of let us get to know them as readers as they're kind of getting to know each other.
Uh-huh.
Like, we're not sitting on, oh yes, we know everything you've ever done, and why don't you tell this person about that secret time that you kissed their brother or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, we're discovering as they discover. And I think in comics, that's not something you get often out of Marvel and DC.
Definitely not. Definitely always feels like you're kind of getting thrown in and you need to know a little bit about the lore. So it was, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Speaking of getting thrown in and needing to know about the lore, I'm going to be real quick on X Factor number 4.
Okay.
This is part 2 of Ten of Swords. We get 3 issues next week, so we'll probably spend a little more time then. But after part 1, Ten of Swords creation, sort of told us what was going on, at least in the first act of Ten of Swords. X Factor is more about immediate consequences. So the big thing that comes out of this issue, and this issue is mostly from Polaris, from Lorna's point of view. The characters who we saw either seriously injured or killed in creation, they get brought back to Krakoa to be revived, and Xavier and the 5 decide, you know what? Anyone killed in conflict will get bumped to the list of regenerations. So instead of waiting, they can immediately be brought back, briefed on what's happened, choose what to do from there. And what we learn is because Rockslide died in Otherworld, which is the nexus of all reality, every universe in the multiverse touches it, the Rockslide who comes back is not the Rockslide who died. He's an amalgamation of different parts of Rockslide from across the multiverse, like different memories, different physiology, different personality. And essentially what this means is if you die in Otherworld, that is a permanent death, which is not something mutants have had to face since establishing Krakoa. So with that in the background, as they're preparing for this big tournament to the death to prevent Arakko from invading our Earth, suddenly they don't have the ability to just undo whatever consequence. So that's a big thing. That's one of the biggest status quo changes we've had since Dawn of X sort of got going after House of X and Powers of 10. We see a couple of other things happen here. Lorna spouts off a prophecy that kind of lists who the 10 sword wielders are and what the swords might be. And then we sort of get the agreement from the 10 of them that, yeah, they have to do this anyway, even if it means running the risk of dying. And that's more or less where this leaves us.
I'm so far behind. I understood most of those words, but I haven't read X-Men in so long.
Yeah, I don't... On the one hand, I think you probably could jump in with, like, the 2 Prelude issues, X-Men 12 and Excalibur 12, and then just jump on the Ten of Swords stuff for the most part. There may be some status quo that
Sure.
that is new, but I also feel like they're doing a pretty good job of just, in passing, mentioning what that status quo is before they change it, if it's relevant. So,
On to Batman.
Yep, Batman Superman Annual number 1. You read this, right?
Yes. This was fun. I definitely had a moment where I was like, why am I just reading 3 things that are Batman? I don't like Batman this much.
I was so surprised when I read your list.
I think I just was like, I haven't bought any Batman in a while. I'm just going to grab, oh, nope, I suddenly have 3. But this was a lot of fun. Like, I got a lot of mixed feelings in Batman in this world right now.
Yeah.
And the idea of just like people playing with toys, and like that actually being the multiverse, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a big, goofy, fun one-shot.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from it. I also love the Batman-esque imp. I can't remember what his name is at the moment.
Bat-Mite.
Yes. Never heard of him before. Totally down for him. And yeah, it just was a lot of fun. And then the fact that the kids are like, you made this awkward. Like, you made this uncomfortable.
That was maybe my favorite part.
Yes. And then Batman and Superman being like, were we just plastic action figures? Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
okay.
Like, I love that the way this starts out, it's like these 5th dimensional kids and then Mr. Mix-It Spitlick and Bat-Mite are just playing with these action figures, and as the issue goes on, it slowly dawns on you, or at least it slowly dawned on me, that, wait, no, these aren't just action figures. They've actually taken Batman and Superman and turned them into toys.
Yes.
And they're futzing with reality with the two of them turned into action figures.
Yeah. And the fact that it kind of ends with I think it's Batman being like, I should probably learn like how to get to the fifth dimension, or like how to understand or whatever.
Yeah.
And Superman being like, they're gods. That's all you need to know. And him being like, it's fine. It's fine.
All the more reason to learn how to stop them.
But yeah, I picked it up knowing it was an annual. I honestly thought it was just a Batman annual, and then I got home and was like, oh, this is Batman Superman. I don't know if I'm ready to read Batman v Superman. And this was a really pleasant surprise. Just everything's a little dreary. This is wonderful.
Well, and it's such an optimistic take on the kind of who would win in a fight arguments, because both Mixie and Bat-Mite are coming from a place of like really earnest love of the heroes they each torment. Like, Mixie is convinced Superman would win because Superman is just that good, and Bat-Mite is convinced Batman would win because Batman is just that clever.
No, I love it so much.
Yeah. All right. How about Batman the Joker Warzone #1? This one I feel like is probably, of everything on this list, the hardest thing you just picked up to actually know what's going on.
Yeah, I knew it was kind of a collection of short stories, and that it probably took place in the Batman, that I am probably now like 4 trades behind. Am I that bad? It's been a minute since I've read some Batman.
Yeah.
That being said, okay. This is not any like negativity towards the actual comic.
Sure.
But, man, am I tired of the Joker. Ed, this was kind of hard to read in like the sense of just like, man, I'm kind of tired of the Joker. So by the last short story, I basically skimmed it. The art was really great. But, and again, it's nothing on the writer or anything. It's just me being like, fucking hell, I'm tired of the Joker. That being said, I really liked this collection. I loved the Poison Ivy.
Yes. Well, and I think I've said it many times. I am with you on being tired of the Joker. If James Tynion, like, there's a very small list, James Tynion is on it, of people whose Batman run I was like gonna stick on the book for. Like, Tynion, I chose to stick around for if it had been like Tom Taylor or Magdalene Visaggio or, a favorite writer.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who I'd kind of told myself after the Tom King run, yeah, I'll stick on Batman. And then they announced the Joker, where I'm like, I trust you, Tynion.
Yeah.
But... And I think actually the ongoing has worked pretty well. I still, like, struggle with so much Joker everywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that being said, like, the first short story of this with Lucius and Luke, I really enjoyed, and I feel like that's the actual one that is the continuation. And the Poison Ivy one I really liked. Also, the side characters of, like, the 2 girls that are now out fighting crime, I really liked this collection. It's just, it suffered from the fact that it was the 3rd Batman thing I read, and me being like, God damn, I am so tired.
So you read this after you read 3 Jokers?
Yes.
Okay. That will also do it, I bet.
Yeah. Nope, I just realized the first one was the Bane story. And I liked Joker goading Bane. I just, again, it's a lot of the Joker. Yeah. And if we have finally gotten to the point where we can't have Batman without the Joker, then that's a problem. And that's just my thoughts. Again, it's just like X-Men. X-Men has like found a way of not like centering on Wolverine, and Batman needs to find a way to not center on the Joker. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm really hopeful that... What's the upcoming movie? It's just The Batman, right?
Yes, and
I'm really hopeful that with it focusing on the Riddler...
Yes.
That takes some of the focus off of the Joker.
Yes.
I can't imagine the Joker going away entirely, but...
No, and that's fine. It's just time for him to go back in his box for a little bit.
Yes. 100%
play
agreed.
with the other toys.
The thing I really wanna dig into on this is I'm pretty sure that all of these short stories are actively setting up storylines for 2021.
Okay, I just remembered only one of them had like the continuing in 2021 or something like that. Um, and that's fine. Like I figured they were all just setting the stage for what's to come. It just felt like one part of it specifically had like all right, this is going to be continued elsewhere, and I was like, okay, cool, fine.
Well, like a lot of these anthology one shots do tend to just sort of give us background for what's going on in a big story.
Sure.
But the Bane Joker one shot does end with to be continued in 2021. The Luke Fox story is written by John Ridley, who we know is writing a Batman miniseries in 2021 with a Black Batman.
I really, really dug that one. And again,
it's so good.
I feel bad, like, just railing on it, but I really did actually enjoy this collection of short stories because that one not only focuses in on the fact that, like, things are fucked up because of the Joker, we still are also in a society where a black guy who is in his own house almost gets shot, and then you see, like, the black female cop kind of side-eyeing the white guy that almost shot Lucio.
I'm looking at that panel now.
It was appreciated.
Well, and like even on top of that, it's not like just this is a random black man in Gotham. This is the CEO of Wayne Tech. Like this is the second to Bruce or president of the board, whatever. I'll never understand corporate structure. I also enjoyed, you mentioned the spoiler and Cascane story. I love these two. I'm glad to see these two like teaming up for fighting the Joker's trainer, I guess, basically his henchman trainer.
That was a fun, like, really cool way of looking at it, especially as there's discussion of like the bat signal isn't just for Batman; it's also important to other people for a variety of reasons.
And this is one that I know that Batman's editor has said. It doesn't say in here that it would be building anything in 2021, but Batman's editor has teased that we would get more of the two of them working together in 2021 before this came out.
Cool.
And kind of by process of elimination, I assume that's going to be true of the Ivy story too. Actually, no, that one does end with to be continued in 2021.
Oh, it does? Okay.
That one says it too, yeah. It's kind of really in the sort of green root vine things coming up under Gotham.
Yeah. No, that is a very upset and hurt and grieving Ivy from the sounds of it. And that was I'm very curious.
Yeah. And then the last one, I love James Takoe's art.
I really love the art from this one, but this one I have to be honest, I skimmed the last one because we were back on the clowns. And there was an artwork that was Heaven is Not for Clowns or something like that, and I really, really, really enjoyed the artwork of this. I just was done with Joker stuff at this point.
I do not know how Takoe crams so much detail into especially his backgrounds without it being busy. But he really does a great job. Oh yeah, I see the one you're talking about. It's one of the Joker's clowns kind of turns a corner and sees this box truck flipped on its side with clown free zone spray painted and then like a clown face with an X over it.
Yes.
Yeah. And we know Clown Hunter, who is the character who shows up and just sort of brutally wipes the floor with the Joker's henchmen. We know Clown Hunter's an ongoing part of Tynan's Batman run. So like that, I think all of this is stuff we'll see come back.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about the three Jokers.
Yeah.
Did you go back and read number 1 for 2?
No, but I think it makes the story makes some sense. Like I didn't have a problem reading this on its own. There's enough context clues throughout, and
I feel like, and I said this in the episode, I feel like number 1 hits a lot of beats you expect it to hit, setting this story up.
Yes.
So I do think it's probably pretty easy to fill in those blanks, especially like you said, with context here.
And this reminded me of what the White Knight run, which I haven't read the second arc of that, but I need to. The whole like different Harley Quinns. We got the different Jokers, and I like that concept of like these villainous roles being passed down, even though Bruce Wayne apparently hasn't been passed down. He's just one person. I
mean, he's died and passed it on a couple of times, but he always takes it back.
Sure, that's fine, whatever.
I know what you mean.
But I really like this. I think I liked this because it felt so horrific. Yeah. And a lot of the art, especially, and how it was handling the story. And maybe that's why I wasn't like, I'm so tired of Jokers, because this one kind of leaned in the horror more. And like, I don't know, part of me is always like, Batman does not lean into Batman. The way that Batman is like discussed and being portrayed these days, Batman should be a horror comic. Batman should be as graphically gross as Nailbiter or something. And I understand why you can't, because you have kids that are reading this and that are going to come into this as where Nailbiter's not. I get that. But I feel like this Three Jokers really pushes that line, especially the pool scene with all the bodies. And then we find out they're not all dead bodies. And I think that's why I really enjoyed this.
Gotcha. That makes sense as you explain it. I'm a little surprised that you enjoyed it.
If I don't keep you on your toes, you won't have me back.
Well, that's not true. But I'm also glad you did, because I actually think there's more that is interesting to me in this issue than there was in the first. Including what you've said. I think the art and the attention to detail in the art is the biggest strength of this book.
Yes.
Yeah. I do find interesting, not in and of itself, maybe the idea that the Joker wants to bring Jason Todd in and make him a Joker, but the idea that the Joker then rejects him for that, I think, is interesting.
I feel like that's part of the game. That's just another way of terrorizing him.
I do too, a little bit, but there was another thing I wondered. The Joker number 1, the criminal, while he's talking to Jason, talks about how it hurts him to laugh and how he's looking for that same kind of pain, like lingering pain in Jason, and he just doesn't see it, and that's why he rejects him. And I think the most horrifying part of this to me was when Jason wakes up in Barbara's room after, like, the Joker has beaten him again. Barbara takes him back there to rest and heal up and all that. And he wakes up and he sees in the closet Barbara's folded up wheelchair and all these books on physical therapy. And there was this moment where, like, oh, is this gonna be, like, is the third book of this going to be Barbara's the one, really, who, as controlled and cool-headed as she usually is actually the one who the criminal's looking for?
I mean, I'm all for that. I just, like, I think I talked about this last time I was on, like, someone brought up the concept of, like, a black woman becoming the Joker and the reasons for the backstory, and I fucking love that. And, like, if that's the case, if Barbara switches sides, and, like, that's a cool concept for me. That being said, Barbara's a little tougher because there's just there's some stuff about that I can go either way on that. It would depend on how it is handled.
I think that's really what it comes down to. I'm so torn on that idea for, I think, the same reason. Just the Killing Joke, to me, as someone who came to comics just 10 years ago, doesn't work.
Nope.
Like,
it is a rough comic to read if you did not read it back in the 90s.
I think, and I think even more so than Death in the Family, which is Jason's Joker death story.
Okay.
Like, I think even more so than that, it feels gratuitous, at least in that way that, like, the reason Barbara gets shot in it is not even because the Joker is after her for being Batgirl, it's to get to her father. It's that same kind of coincidence that, you know, it had already aged out of being something I was interested by the time I got to it. And anytime it comes back up, like, I have trouble getting past that sort of apathy toward that story.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. And remembering the Killer Joker, like, even if she turns evil, I just don't see her going with the Joker, the one who caused her all this pain. I don't know. But focusing in on the fact that, like, this had some of the more horrific elements that I think should be associated with the Joker. I mean, the Joker is, like, touted as his biggest villain or blah 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 blah, and like it's supposed to be this horrific. This showed me a horrific Joker.
Yeah. But I think it helps that this is, I think it's safe to say at this point, like, this is not in continuity. There's really no way this book can be in continuity. And I've read interviews with Jason Fabok about, like, design choices, wanting this to feel timeless, like it could be from any point in Batman's history, but also, like, it isn't at any one specific time. So I really think that this is, while it was originally planned to be an answer to a question raised in continuity, something separate from that now. And I think it benefits from that, because I think it can, if it wants to do something out of left field with Barbara like that, I think maybe it's better to tell that story without it being in continuity, so that it becomes this thing that gets folded into her history and has to be dealt with over and over and over again, like the Killing Joke.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Is it still good? This is on me. Dark Knight's Death Metal Multiverses End. This is set on the 6 remaining Earths. Groups of Earth Zero heroes, each led by a different Green Lantern, are trying to free everyone tied to the towers that are powering Perpetua. And this one really focuses on Earth Zero, really on a conversation between Jon Stewart and Owlman. If you jumped into Dark Knight's Death Metal without having read, like, everything from Metal and No Justice on, this is actually a really good recap issue.
Okay, I almost debated this, but again, I was like, that is a lot of Batman.
It's a really good recap issue, or, like, honestly, there are a couple of details in here, because this has gone on for a while now, that I had forgotten about. So it helped fill in or remind me of some things that had kind of become blanks. The thing Brian and I had both talked about wanting from this issue is sort of seeing it be the end of Act 1 of Death Metal and giving us some forward movement in the story. And I guess it makes sense that it doesn't do that would be saved for a regular numbered issue of Death Metal. But it doesn't really do that. There is, I think, a cool idea about Owlman in here, and Owlman as he relates to the Batman Who Laughs. Specifically, at the start of this, Owlman is jealous of the Batman Who Laughs, because Owlman is supposed to be the true dark reflection of Batman, not this upstart. And, like, the reason this is just a conversation between him and Jon Stewart is because Jon Stewart's, like, kind of goading him into using this jealousy to get him on his side.
Okay.
It's fun, but it's not like the big explosive chapter break that we kind of had hoped for. Legion of Superheroes number 9. I'm taking a little more time on some of these, just because. Legion of Superheroes number 9. This is the second of 2 issues that are what Bendis has called, like, artist jams, where each page basically is a different artist, giving us basically a different Legion member's perspective. The whole Legion is on trial, so, like, each of them is weighing in the Legion's defense. And to me, this really feels like the first big act break for this Legion run. It's in what will be collected as the second volume, but this sort of gives us the explanation of why Rimbor's been attacking and has been attacking the Legion and what they're up to. And it sets stakes in a way that I don't really understand the implications of, because I've never gotten into older Legion stuff, but that I do recognize as using a very important phrase to Legion history. We learn that a great darkness is coming. And I know one of the biggest Legion stories is called the Great Darkness Saga. We don't really get context of what that means here, if it's an allusion to the same thing or a new version of that or something different. But I feel like using the phrase Great Darkness over and over in a Legion book is a pretty big deal. Wonder Woman 763, this one I think is easy to be quick on. It is the family reunion between Maxwell Lord and his daughter.
Cool.
Chew number 3, Sage intervenes to stop the assassin who was sent after her from killing her twin sister after her shitty boyfriend tried to pass the twin sister off as Sage, and Tony is on Sage's trail. Like, Tony knows Sage is up to some shady shit. Avengers number 36. This is also kind of a big status quo change issue. This is the moment where, I'm not going to spoil this one, but this is the moment where Moon Knight decides to pray to a different god. And, oh boy, I do not know what comes from this, but Moon Knight gets a big ol' power-up as a result.
All right.
Fantastic Four number 24. This is sort of the official adoption party for Joe and Nikki, who are being taken in by Ben and Alicia. And against that backdrop, the Human Torch and Iceman argue about whether or not Iceman was ever really a member of the Fantastic Four. It's like a good breath of fresh air issue, and also kind of a lot of fun. And that is it. It was kind of a light week for me, honestly.
No, I can see that. I there wasn't a ton that in general that I don't know, it felt like a lot of reprints I was seeing, because I almost grabbed an Ice Cream Man comic that I definitely already have, but I think it's in like its 3rd or 4th reprinting, which means I should probably actually read it if it's getting reprinted so much. I'm now very curious.
Yeah. Well, you know, it would be something we could talk about on the Spooptacular.
You don't say?
I do say.
Ooh.
That explains why this week felt a little like September had 5 Wednesdays.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Things got spread out a little more. Yeah. Also, this coming Wednesday is like a 25 book week for me, so a heavy week. But yeah, let's talk about next week.
I'm glad it's a heavy week for you. There's only 3 things that I'm really kind of looking forward to.
Well, tell me about Black Widow number 2.
I really can't. Like, I haven't read Black Widow number 1, but I'm gonna tell you straight up, Kelly Thompson's writing it. I'm reading it eventually. For anybody who doesn't follow, like, me or Alex and Minds at Yerker, any other thing else, I just moved, so behind in like reading everything. And
oh right, you haven't been on here since.
No, and so like have found comic store, didn't buy comics for months because of COVID. Having to readjust my budget to add comics back into that, especially as it's like, oh shit, I'm behind in a lot of these arcs and things. Like, for instance, Kelly Thompson started a new Sabrina arc, and I'm like, oh fuck, I need that now. So I have the first issue of Black Widow because it's Kelly Thompson. The second issue comes out next week. I haven't read the first one, but I know I'm gonna love it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna love it.
I will say, strong recommendation, do read 1 before you jump in for 2 on this one.
Oh, and decide if I like it?
I definitely think you'll like it, but there's like a big status quo shift.
Okay.
And 1 sort of connects some dots.
Cool.
There's still a mystery to it, but I think 1 is an important issue for this one.
No, yeah,
yeah. I know that sounds like a dumb thing to say.
Well, I mean, considering that I have admitted at least 2 comics that I was like, yeah, I read this without reading the, one that came before it. It's a weird habit.
You are really comfortable jumping in on issues, which is something that, boy howdy, I wish I were as comfortable with you on that.
I'm not.
Because I kind of obsessively have to read whole chunks of things.
I'm not, but I came into comics in roughly 2016. I think it's definitely not been 5 years, because I definitely was in New York when I started. And so have kind of accidentally jumped into things randomly a few times. So it's not something that I necessarily recommend to anybody or do very frequently, but I guess I'm comfortable enough these days that I can pick up an issue, if I have any kind of like familiarity with it, and be able to go like, cool, with context clues, I can kind of figure out what's going on, and also kind of decide, yeah, this is something that I'm going to want to read or like catch up on. That being said, I do also still just have my comic writers that I love that put things out like Kelly Thompson. So.
Fair. I still say that's the best way to do it. Know the writers, creators.
Yeah, definitely.
You like. My first pick for next week is Getting It Together, which is a 4-issue miniseries from Image, written by Sina Grace, which is, speaking of reading the writers you like,
yeah.
This is a relationship comic about sort of like a found family friend circle.
Okay.
Where one character's sister starts dating that character's best friend, and just like the relationship drama that comes with that.
I may have to check that out.
Yeah.
I don't have my camera on. I just realized, but I definitely just had an epiphany and made like peacocking wild motions that you did not see, which is fine because the listeners didn't either. But I definitely just realized that there is something coming out next week that I'm so super excited for.
Yeah? What's that?
The Animorphs graphic novel.
Oh shit, that is next week.
Yes, it just hit me. I was like, shit, that is October 6th.
Time is so weird, right?
I mean,
what even is it?
It is both October 3rd and October 27th to me right now. I don't know what time it is, but yes.
Yeah. And hey, I'll go ahead and mention it here. So for Minds at Yerk, we recorded an interview with Chris Grine, who handled the graphic novel adaptation. You're certainly welcome to go listen to it there, but after it comes out at some point, we'll probably give it a few days there first, but I will feed drop it into the Panelology feed too. It's Meg and Tim and me, so you know all of us, and we're talking about a graphic novel.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out any of his stuff, he just announced another graphic novel he's coming out. I think it's in about 6 months. That is his own creation, and having read several of his own creations on top of the Animorphs graphic novel now, big fan. Definitely on my list of auto buys now. So very excited about that.
And when that book gets solicited, we will definitely mention it then. Buffy the Vampire Slayer number 18.
I don't know what's going on in Buffy, but I just keep buying them. I buy them in single issues because I love the art. And then I buy them in trade. And then I need to sit down and actually read the trade.
Yeah.
I'm going to be reading a lot in December. Let's just be honest.
That's fair. I mean, no reason you can't get a head start if you want.
That is incredibly valid.
Hey, this is what I tell myself every time. Like, I started our Spooptacular list, beginning of September, late August?
That's very true.
Ask me how many of the things I put on that list that I've actually read ahead of time.
I started one today because I was going to pass it off to a friend, and then I didn't finish it and didn't pass it off, and also didn't give them anything else that I have of theirs, so that was fun.
Yeah. I've bought a couple things. They're sitting on my desk. Haven't read them yet. Champions number 1 out next week. This is Eve Ewing, who wrote Ironheart. And this is very much picking up the Outlawed mini-event plotline that's going on and sort of moving the ball forward on it. I'm super excited for Eve Ewing writing Champions. It's a 5-issue miniseries. Definitely checking it out. Lock and Key and Pale Battalions Go, number 2.
Yeah, I loved the first round, I guess, of Lock and Key, and despite the fact that I do believe the TV show has been canceled, I am glad they are continuing to put out the new comic. I think it's only 3 issues, it might be 4 of a mini arc, but I think it's going to continue after that as well. So, got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Joe Hill, but I love Lock and Key.
Fair. I didn't know the show had been canceled. I thought it was getting a 2nd season.
Maybe I am speaking out of turn. I thought... You know what? I may be confusing it with the other comic show we watched.
September Faction. That did get canceled.
Yeah, I thought Lock and Key... I'm looking it up right now because I don't want...
It also may be that they had said they were going to do a 2nd, and then after...
That's what I'm wondering as well.
Yeah. While you check that, my third thing is Legend of Swamp Thing, Halloween Spectacular.
Okay, that does sound great.
Listen to some of the writers working on this. Vita Ayala, Philip K. Johnson, Tom King, James Tynan, Ram V. Emma Rios and Christian Ward are doing art, among others. It's no secret that I like Swamp Thing, and a bunch of writers I love are working on it.
Yeah. I was wrong. Lock and Key is still set to have a second season. I definitely got it confused with October Faction.
Yeah. Which I feel like is kind of an easy thing to do. They hit at the same time and have sort of a similar vibe from what I've watched of. I've only seen the first episode or two of Lock and Key, so like
that's fair. Big houses, big gothic houses. Yeah.
Yeah. Netflix's gothic house budget must be through the roof.
Oh, man. Yes. And I love it so much. It makes me happy.
All right. Well, that will do it for this week. We will be back next week. Brian may be with us, maybe not. It all depends on how beach life treats him. Until then, we would like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. You can visit us at panelologypodcast.com, support us at patreon.com/panelology, get merch at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital P, capital M, or send us questions, comments, etc. at bit.ly/panelologymailbag, capital P, capital M. Meg, do you have anything you want to mention, plug, promote?
Sure. Again, Mindset York is on an off week this week, but because the Chris Grine graphic novel is coming out, we did interview him, and we are dropping that on October 6th, which will be the day after this comes out. I also co-host a Judging Book Covers podcast, where we've been reading some really great things, but also then we read something that we realized in 2020 we actually can hit our limit, and we're going to talk about the first book that we didn't finish. So,
oh, really?
Yes, it is something that we're going to handle with care, and because it is an author that we really like. But there are a lot of things that we have come to realize that we don't have patience for in this world, and we are not going to bash anybody on that. We're just going to talk about why, I guess, maybe our tastes are going to change on the podcast. It's it's just going to be kind of a, if you're one of those people that are like, I always have to finish everything, as my co-host Stephanie is, come listen to us talk about a book where she went, I have 200 more pages of this book, and I went, Stephanie, put it down. We're done. So, that's what I do. And the Way We Haunt Now starts this week as well, which is an audio drama that I have a small part on. So
awesome. Well, that is super cool. Check all of that stuff out. In the meantime, I'm Alex.
And I'm Megan. Go read comics!